Yeah, I mean, the first thing is I really see myself as an accountability coach, because we all need those, right? In fitness or in finance. We need somebody that's there with them on the road. So what I do is I create a map for them together. So we sit down, we figure out what they want to do, what do they want to do 3 years from now, what does it look like 5 years from now, what's it look like at a retirement. And so what we do is we develop a map, and that map helps them go down that road. We first build the foundation, so we take care of the things that protect the family, the income, things like that. After that, we build the retirement plan. And that retirement plan, that's where I become the accountability coach. It's like, hey, what do you have in your emergency fund? How have you built that? You need 6 months in there. What are you using that for? Where is it setting? Is your money making you money? I mean, that's the critical. A lot of people don't let their money make money. They're making it to spend. And what's your biggest asset? What do you think? The biggest asset you'll ever own?
Real estate.
Real estate, number one answer.
Oh, geez, I wasn't
or your
prepared.
retirement account.
Yeah, retirement or
right.
Yeah, your income.
Yeah.
We're all millionaires. We just haven't earned it yet.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. So take your income that you're making today and times it by 10. Just roughly in your head, think about what that looks like.
Can you do that, Luke?
It'd be $1 million. It's probably $1 million. It's $1 million or better that you're going to make in the next 10 to 15 years. Well, what are you doing with that? So that's what I sit down with my clients and ask that tough question. What do you do with it? And I also ask them, the foundation part is, hey, what if something happened to you and you're out of the picture? What happens to that retirement plan that your significant other, your spouse is relying on? Okay. Do they continue the lifestyle they have? Do they continue the dreams they have for retirement?
Right.
So I'll ask you guys, what would be a dream in retirement? What would you like to do?
So my answer is kind of not straightforward. I don't know if I believe in retirement per se.
Okay.
Like, I think that's a quick path to dying. So I don't believe in a lack of purpose, I guess.
Good.
Like, you should. So it's like it's more of finding the freedom to pursue the thing that you're wanting to pursue instead of just being a slave to a job necessarily. So.
Yeah.
That should be on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's so true though.
Yeah.
So retirement is allowing you to do what you want to do, even though you may still be making income. For years, my wife and I have dreamed of having a small yacht, but not having that burden of debt. And we mean a small yacht, something that will hold 8 people or something in that manner, but then be able to rent that out and be the captain and the hostess for those individuals and just travel with them and get to know 2 couples at a time, 4 people at a time. But there again, same thing. We're still making income, but we've established to the point where we don't have to rely on that income. So I completely understand your definition of retirement. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't think I'd ever quit
Yeah.
working, meaning and purpose, right?
Yeah.
But
I feel like, if you kind of don't have something you're striving for, but it could be family, like it could be anything. It doesn't have to be a job, but I feel like a lot of people are like, man, I just want to check out and just sit on the beach 24/7.
Well, I feel like I mean, that's fair, but I've talked to countless people who have retired and then 10 years down the road they're like, I got to get another job because I am so bored. So being able to retire but feed some sort of income or some sort of purpose into your life still, instead of just maybe wasting away on the couch and just being like, well, I'm retired, what's left? But there's still so much more that could be left.
But that's what I was saying. It's like, if you are financially free to do whatever you want, then the financial part isn't going to hold you to having to stick to a certain career. If you don't enjoy it, it's like you can pursue something that you're passionate about, regardless of the financial part of it, because you've already taken care of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I help clients do. That's the map.
Right.
What do you want to do at retirement? Well, I want to sit on the beach. Okay. Well, what brings you meaning and purpose? What makes you, what will motivate you to bring you meaning and purpose?
Right.
Well, I'd love to sit on the beach and have a little cafe.
Yeah.
I'd love to sit on the beach and have a little bar. Okay, great. Now we know what we need to be working toward.
Right.
Yeah, because we all need meaning and purpose, right?
Right.
Yeah. or we do shrivel up and die.
Yeah.
You know, my grandfather distilled in me work ethic, like nobody else. And he just couldn't stand retirement. Went back to work twice. You know, he just, he couldn't not have that meaning and purpose in his life.
Yeah.
You know,
I saw the statistic, I don't know, a while back, but it was like older people with grandkids end up living longer than ones without because it's like, oh, I'm needed here and I have like this purpose. So it's like, it doesn't like, but it is, like I'm saying, it doesn't have to be a career per se, but just having.
Just something that you.
Just not going, all right, I have no more responsibilities.
Yeah, I'm just here now.
Yeah. The last thing I want a client to do is, and that's okay if they want to do it 1 or 2 days a week, but to plug into a video game and sit there the rest of their lives.
That's lucrative.
I mean,
or become physically unable to fulfill their retirement.
Because what does retirement even mean if you're not actually able to enjoy it like that? So
And that money doesn't do anything for you. You know, my dad says all the time, have you ever seen a U-Haul behind a hearse? You know, it doesn't, you don't get to take it with you.
Right.
So what we do, I know that's a little morbid, but what we do is we help set up that plan. And if you get to that stage of your life, when you get there, that distribution stage, then we start talking about legacy. We talk about, hey, what are you leaving for your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids? What are you living? We're generational thought process.
Right.
We're not, hey, let's get you down the road. Let's get you down the road, and then let's make sure your kids are better off than you were. Let's make sure your grandkids are better off than you were, so on and so forth. Okay, even to the point where we put it in a trust. Saying, hey, grandkids, you will get this at a certain age, and at that point, you've got to do X with it. You got to invest it. You've got to put it into a life policy. You got to do something with it.
Cool. Yeah. So this might be going down a tangent, but this is something that has been on my mind within, like, I want to store our finances well for not us, but like to pass it along generationally. More, that's kind of like what's motivating me to be good with my finances right now. How would you do that without making trust fund babies? Because I want to have something to pass along, but also do it in a smart way where it's not like I'm raising spoiled brats.
Right.
So, well, hopefully we all get there, you know, but I'm a little past that. My kids are working and, you know, but what you do there is you build that trust and that literal trust. And that trust lays it out saying, hey, at age 25, you get X amount of dollars and we expect you to do this with it. You put it into another account, you invest it. It's your money now, but you have to invest it. You have to use it as a down payment on a house. You can actually dictate how the money's spent.
Oh, that's cool.
So you don't lose ownership. Even if you pass, you don't lose ownership on it.
That's really cool.
The estate dictates how that money goes.
Very cool. I will say, like, meeting with you, you're probably the first person that I have met with that thought so future-based so soon, too. Like, that was what our first meeting was about, is the generational wealth. And I feel like a lot of people going into it are trying to figure out what they can do now for themselves later, instead of what they can do now for themselves and generations, just like what you were talking about. So I think that is really cool. Yeah. And
it gives you, there again, it goes back to that purpose. Why am I doing this?
Right.
Why am I saving this money if it's just me? You know, and you see that several times in your life. Okay. You see it when you're single, when you're young, you're like, hey, it's just my money. You get married, then you have kids, then you have a purpose, and then you're empty nester, and it comes faster than you think. And then again, all of a sudden it's like, why am I making all this money or trying to make all this money, and why am I trying to invest it? So if you don't have that plan, it's easily lost. And then what you end up doing is you end up spending on things that are frivolous, things that will not come back in return to you, you know. So
Sneakers sneakers have a little bit of a return.
Yeah, e-bikes.
E-bikes have no
We've
return.
made all the wrong decisions.
Yes.
We're working on the right ones now.
Now that we have families and everything like that, we can learn.
You know, and I'm a car guy,
Yeah.
but it's the worst investment ever. It's just you rarely get a return. I think out of all the cars I've ever owned, I sold one for more than I bought it
Wow.
for. You know, they always lose depreciation. Mostly, I can't say always. You know, but that's not a good investment either. So we have an honest conversation with my clients. We talk about what they really want. You know, if they want that dream car, okay, let's build that into your budget though. Let's make sure the emergency fund's there. Let's make sure the foundation's built there. Then go after that car.
Yeah.
You know, have fun with it. Have fun in life. It's too tedious to begin with if you're not having fun. But if you budget for it, then when you get it, it means more, right?
Yeah.
So,
I agree with that.
and then I actually brought the definition. What I thought was interesting as I try to force these on. We kind of talked about this being discipline, you know, but I found this definition I thought was interesting. It's active or experiences that provide mental or physical training. That's the definition of discipline. And I thought that was interesting when it comes to fitness and finance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's physical and it's mental.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
savings, it is a mental exercise. What am I doing? You know, D1 athletes look at being 1% better every day. So what are you doing financially to be better 1% every day?
Right.
Yeah, and the same thing with fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what am I doing 1% today? How am I bettering myself today? You know, if you do that 365 times a year, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because I personally use like financial analogies with the fitness side of things with people all the time because there's so many parallels that go hand in hand with these things within like you're saying the 1%. It's like doing the one small thing every single day. In 10 years, you're going to be so much farther down the road with fitness or with finances. They both just compound over time. And you reap those benefits by that consistency and the discipline, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited that we are kind of melding these two things together and offering people something that they can kind of overhaul their whole life. Because really, when you really reel in one part of your life, it bleeds into other parts of your life. So if you're really honing in your fitness and your own health and then your finances, it's like what other parts of your life are going to improve from that as well. So because those are two large pieces of the puzzle too. So
I think it's cool too because they're both kind of the same mental aspect of what you have to do for both. It's not like, oh, I'm going to be a little bit here and a little bit there. It's like you have to go all in both to invest so much into your future. And so the mental aspect of being able to see from 1 month from now to 6 months to a year are both big mental aspects that you see in fitness and finances as well.
It's very true.
Yeah.
I mean, and it goes into, like you said, other things of your life. It's spiritual, it's your marriage, it's your relationships. You can see it impacting all of that by just finding two, being really disciplined in that arena.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking even with we were talking about building generational wealth, like you can do the same thing in fitness by the parents set the tone in the house for like eating and the activity and this kind of stuff. So you're teaching your kids the type of adult they're going to be one day, essentially. Yeah. And so when you are consistently doing the small things well within like choosing what foods to eat, choosing to go outside or do a hike instead of zonking out and watching TV for all day. It's like you're investing in their future as well. And so like I just see there's so many parallels with this, like
it really is,
with the financial and the physical fitness stuff. Yeah. And so
I agree.
It's really cool.
And one of the things I worked with my kids on was, dad or mom was usually buying, even when they were little, a toy at Toys R Us or something that they were wanting. But we got to get it at a point in our house where I'd ask the kids, hey, if this was coming out of your piggy bank, would you buy it? And it was interesting when we started asking that question, they would answer typically about half the time, no. I wouldn't spend my own money on it. And I'm like, well, then why are you expecting me to spend on it? But you're right. Discipline there goes all the way down to when they're young, and they watch what the parents do. Because I have to say, I've got 3 kind of savvy kids when it comes to money.
Yeah.
You know, my daughter knows every penny in her bank account. She's not one of those that's like, well, I keep swiping it, she keeps saying approved.
Yeah.
You know, but that's our goal, is generational, is to have the parents understand the process so they can hand it down.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. And I think that's honestly the biggest thing, is for parents to understand what they need to do so their kids can pick up on it. Because, I mean, there's a lot of things that we did or whenever I was a kid that I'm just like, now that I'm older, I'm just like, oh, I actually have no idea how to save well, or what retirement actually looked like. And not a knock on my parents or anything, but it was just a thing that either wasn't talked about or wasn't like, we weren't trying to learn, they weren't trying to teach us because of X, Y, and Z. And so it is like I feel like a catch-up game now, and it is to be able to invest that into my future kids whenever they come around, and have them not feel so stressed as an adult. Like, that's a huge win.
So one of the things I coach a lot of my young millennials, 20 somethings, is how do you budget a book, or how do you budget a bank account? When you spend it, deduct it. Then you know what your balance is. And believe it or not, it is literally that simple. Yeah. And that's where I start with a lot of them. It's like, let's get you a budget going.
Yeah.
Then you know what you can spend.
Right.
You know, if I'm looking at taking 5% of your income to put it toward the foundational part of the investment of your plan, we got to know what your 5% is. You know, and so we have to take small baby steps a lot of times just to get to that point, because it's not taught in school.
Yeah.
You know, we've lost that art in school and education. So that's where I come in. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Do you see, so I know with fitness, it might be a little bit easier in fitness. People want to do extreme things. Like, they want those quick fixes. And it's easier to be like, I'm just going to take some kind of concoction that is sold online, or like, I'm just going to eat broccoli for forever.
Or just run an endless amount
it's
of
like,
time.
do you see people that struggle with that in the financial side of things? Because I know that the secret is just consistently do the small things well, and over
basics.
time it's just basic things over time get you there. And it's like, you see people that want to do these extreme things, you're like, but that's not you're not learning anything.
You would be out of the norm if that worked for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's this generation, this young generation saying, you know what, I'll just go post a bunch of stuff, you know, and I'll make all this money. Well, how many, you know, I don't know the percentage, but very few succeed in that.
Right.
You know, they may make $30-40 a month, but they're not going to make $30,000-40,000 a month, you know. And it is, the people are always looking for that quick fix. That's where I come in with the gray hair and everything. And I said, look, that doesn't work. Let's slow down, and let's have a hard conversation here, because you may have to sacrifice a few things today to, you know, have success in the future. You know, I've seen that caption where it says, you know, sacrifice the next 3 years to have your dreams. And that's so true, and so disciplined people are not willing to do that, either fitness or finance.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially with like that sacrifice because even if you just cut it down to like sacrifice for a year, like, that's not a long time. And what you've learned in that year and those habits that you've developed in that year then take you the rest of your life. So that sacrifice for that little bit of time sets you up probably 10 years in advance. And that's a hard pill to swallow, because people are like, well, I don't want to sacrifice now. Maybe I can do it later. But it's like, do it now and have an even better later.
That phrase right there, I'll do it later, is the reason so many people in the United States live off Social Security. Because before they know it, they're 67.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to bring up one of my favorite quotes from Luke.
Oh my god.
That's future Luke's problem.
Man.
Right?
That's, you know what?
That is
Now
so,
future Luke is catching up to his
Yes.
problems.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
future Luke is like, pass Luke, you idiot.
Yeah. It's like if I could go back and tell myself one thing, don't use that fake phrase.
Man, what a
stupid,
terrible phrase that was.
I just recently read a book called Build the Life You Want by Arthur Brooks. He's like a Harvard professor that's like, his like whole thing is about happiness, and talks about like people's, you don't actually feel happiness from like reaching a goal, but like working towards a goal. So you actually like by saving every single day and seeing yourself, like if you're wanting to get $1 million, seeing that number build closer, that's what brings that happiness. Not once you hit the $1 million, you're just gonna be like,
You're like, what do I do now?
I knew
now
I was
I need
going to
2
do
million.
it. Yeah. Now, yeah.
It never ends. So, but by the discipline and staying persistently working towards something, that's what actually brings you that fulfillment. And it's the same thing with fitness. It's like, man, if you're trying to lose weight, seeing that scale continue to move down and you feeling better. It's like once you get to a number, it's like it's not like, all right, now I'm gonna go back. It's like no. let's build these
Right.
routines that's gonna keep you healthy long term.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we try to do as coaches is have them actually learn the process and learn how to, one, do it with us and do it on their own. Because what we don't want is them to then, whenever they hit their goal, either just revert back because they just don't want to continue, or when they are on their own, they kind of get lost and they're like, I don't know what to do now. We want to learn and teach them so they can do it on their own for lifelong learning with that.
People do this in fitness, which it doesn't seem crazy, but it's like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds and then I'm just going to go right back to what I was doing.
Right.
But what
right.
if they're like, hey, I want to save $10,000, and they do that, and then they just go rack up a bunch of credit cards after they do that. It's like, wait, why did you do all that work for nothing?
Yeah.
So I've got my emergency fund at $10,000, but I'm walking through the Ford dealership.
Right,
Mustang
exactly.
looks awfully good. Yeah,
It's like so counterintuitive. It's why would you work for that to go right back to the thing that got you in that place that you had to work yourself out of in the first place.
And you guys probably see this too, but one of the biggest compliments to me is one of my clients call me and say, should I do this? I'm looking at, let me make a case first. I'm looking at this 1-ton truck. I'm like, okay, do you own a construction company? No. We ask the questions, but that's a huge compliment to me when a client respects the plan so much that they're willing to say, hey, let me step back a little bit. Let me call my coach and say, hey, coach, what do you think?
Yeah.
Here's the reasons I thought it would be a good idea. Talk me into it or talk me out of it. And that's where we probably come into for fitness and then finance is helping that individual kind of step out of this situation and get out of the emotional idea of it, the aspect of it, but make a rational decision.
Yeah.
Which is cool because you brought up the definition of discipline. I was also looking into it and how it's like rooted in the term disciple. Like you're actually learning from a teacher. It's like applying what you're learning into your everyday. And so like you think of like you learning a discipline, like you think of like martial arts, like there's a discipline in like a certain martial arts. And so we're like trying to teach them the art of saving money or investing in their health. And it's like, so it's like you're letting somebody in that profession step in and give you that knowledge to like apply that discipline to get you somewhere. And so I thought that was really cool to make that connection.
I like that. Yeah. And it goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
Like we've talked about. If you're not healthy and you've got all the money in the world, health is wealth, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have that health when you're 75 and you can't travel and that was your dream,
right.
Well, you've just
then
you've not accomplished anything.
It looks like sitting on the couch. And,
and then we talk about legacy. Now, who do you leave it to?
Yeah.
I thought this was cool too, that there was I can't remember what podcast I saw this on, but the three most important organs in your body, it's like number 1 is your heart, and then number 2 is your lungs. Like obviously you need those for longevity, and then number 3 is your thigh muscles. Because if you can't get up and like move around and be mobile, it's like your quality of life diminishes drastically, and then then you're on a fast track to dying.
Yeah, it's the craziest thing to see people like struggle to get out of a chair because that's what you probably do every day.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that go hand in hand with fitness that actually literally train how to get out of a chair. And so like being able to
half these machines in here.
half the machines, like everything. And so like to see somebody not invest back into their life to be at 70 not being able to get out of a chair, that's still pretty young. Like you still have a lot of life to live. Learn how to do it. And also like I think it's never too late to get into the gym or start saving to set yourself up. I think a lot of people get in their head that, oh, I've wasted all this time, what's the point of trying now? And there's a big point in trying, because we can live very long lives, and 70 is still very young. Get in the gym or start saving.
I mean, I've got a client right now that we're building the path with. He's 60. You know, it's never too late. Now, does he have to do things differently? Does he have to have different disciplines than somebody that's 28? Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's got to have a different discipline.
Right.
And you got to see that in fitness.
Yeah.
You know, you take somebody my age, I can't come in and do the same thing
Right.
an 18-year-old kid comes in to do, right? So you got to,
They have time to like be more aggressive or not have to be as aggressive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so
Same thing in fitness. If you come into me at 60, then that plan looks a little more aggressive than it did at 50.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
after a year of this working, like going through this program, you should like not recognize like where you started to now should be unrecognizable essentially. So what, like, as far as like, what do you think someone can expect to achieve within a year financially? Like, I know that's it is very person dependent, but.
And it will depend on the person,
right?
You know, and what they're doing and what they make, you know, but in the first year I can assure them they're going to have an emergency fund. We'll start building that foundation for them, just like a home. As we build that foundation, then the rest is secured. Okay, so the first year we're really going to work on the discipline to make sure that foundation is there. Now that may mean some sacrifices, but that's part of discipline, right? You're going to have to say, okay, what's really important to me? The new car sitting in the parking lot, or can I get rid of that, downside it a little bit? And that's where it depends on each client. That might be a non-negotiable for a client. Like, okay, cool. You know, because I may have a client that says, hey, Tim, I buy one and I drive them for 8 years. I wear the wheels off of those. So I'm not willing to give up the new car because I know I'm disciplined enough. I won't trade that car for 3 years. It'll be 8 years before I get rid of it. So that depends on the client. But the first year, we're going to set up that emergency fund. We're going to start the foundation, and then we're going to work on their dreams. But like you said, we're going to start impacting lives. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that a lot. And that's a lot to accomplish in a year too. I feel like that, those are really big changes that just for a year set you up for a lifetime. That's crazy.
And true education. I guess this is really the difference in my industry is you don't get a lot of education. You get here, buy this. This is what you need for retirement. No, where do you want to be for retirement? Because the three of us all had kind of different definitions of retirement, right? And that's people. So I want to make sure that first year we identify, because you would be surprised how many people I asked that question to. I asked 2 questions. When do you want to retire? And what do you want to do at retirement? Well, they don't know the first answer at all. They've never thought about it. I guess 60. Well, why 60? Well, isn't that when you get Social Security? Okay. And then what do you want to do for retirement? Oh, Tim, I'm so busy. I've never thought about that. Well, let me help you think about that.
Right.
Let's dream a little bit. You know, some people call it a dream circle or a dream map or whatever, but really it's, you know, what do you want to achieve?
Right.
You know, I've got a gentleman right now. He wants to go back to cattle farming. That's his dream of retirement.
Awesome.
He wants to be financially set so he can go play on his tractor every day and, you know, mess with his cows.
Yeah.
But that's his dream, right? And so that's the first year we will help you identify what you want in retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's cool. I like that. funny enough, I just hit a year with me and my wife decided to like not eat out for a whole year. And so we just did that. And honestly, she's like, where do you want to eat out? And I'm like, I've just done it for a year now that I'm like, I don't really want to go anywhere. Like, why break it now? But we did it because I had some like gut issues, like with my, like I had some health problems, but also, after like a few months of doing that for health, Christy's like, we're saving so much money.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just like keep going. And so like we've been really focusing on the finances and like it's like no month is like drastic. It's like very just small. Like we're like, hey, we're not going to eat out. We're not going to spend unnecessary money and we're putting it back. And like looking back from like where we were from a year ago, I'm like, oh, this is like, it's really freeing. But also with health wise too, like I'm in probably the best health I've been in my whole life, coming from being super sick, like, and so it's like, but it was like, there was no like magic pill I took. There was like nothing for like financially either, but it's like just that consistency really.
Being aware of it.
It adds up, it compounds. And so
it's crazy too, cause that's such a simple thing. But yeah, you know how hard, like, I don't know if it was even for you and Chrissy, but for me and Jess, we really try not to eat out a lot. But it's actually really hard not to eat out when you like try. You're like, oh, I got to actually prepare things and everything like that. And it's the smallest steps of just starting it that is the hardest thing. Like even just if we're relating it to fitness, just getting into the gym is kind of the hardest step for people, because once they get in, they see what it's like, they feel good when they leave and everything like that. But it's like that start is always the hardest thing for people too.
Getting the ball rolling is always the hardest thing, but once you get that momentum, like I said, working to the to that goal, and you see yourself moving closer, then you like you get kind of like addicted to it, because you're like, oh, I'm almost there, or I'm getting closer, and you see that number in your bank account going up, or you see the pounds going down. It's like,
I think the first like 3 months of the gym are so important, because you do see a lot of progress in that, and you're still fresh enough where you're like really excited through it. And that first 3 months gets you hooked with fitness.
Once you get it, once you start seeing those results, and you're not feeling so sore that you can't sit on the toilet. But it is like over time, it adds up, and you start feeling, you're like, okay, I'm seeing where we're going now. Right. And have you ever read the book Atomic Habits?
Yeah, years ago.
I really love that book. And one of the biggest things that I took from it was the analogy of like identifying with your goal, like making it your identity, versus like say someone's like trying to quit smoking, they're like, someone offers you a cigarette and they're like, oh no, I'm trying to quit, versus saying, no, I'm not a smoker. And you're like, no, I'm not a smoker is who you are now, which it makes you a lot less likely to actually take the cigarette. And same thing with like if you like Luke, we talked in a podcast, talked about, he said wanting to learn to play guitar, instead of saying like, I'm trying to learn to play guitar, instead of saying I'm a guitar player. It's like when you say that, it's like, okay, this is who I am now, what I do. And so it's the same thing with like, oh, I am financially like fit, or like physically fit, anything. If you make that your identity, like you're more likely to do those small habits consistently, because that's just who you are now.
Right.
And so, you're defining what?
Discipline.
What you guys are talking about, you're defining discipline.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's it.
And so much of it is just a mental shift in like the way you present it to yourself, and figuring out these games to play with yourself to make you more consistent and disciplined.
And then it becomes a habit.
You're right.
And then it is amazing when clients start seeing their money work for them. It's like all of a sudden they want to put more money in it. It's like, wait, I didn't know it did that. It's like, it is compounding interest, you know. I can't remember the definition that Einstein used on compounding interest, but he was like, it's one of the most amazing things ever invented. Compounding interest.
And I think psychologically, like we don't really compute it in our heads really well. Like that's just not a way that, like, you have to really look at a chart and you're like, oh, that's crazy. Because like when you just say, oh, it compounds, it's like, it's hard to like conceptualize what that actually is going to mean.
Right.
And like, the difference of like this is like adding up.
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
time.
Because I feel like it just kind of clicks one day.
Yeah.
Like you don't realize it until you realize it, and you're like, "What just happened?"
Yeah.
Like, and so it's just funny how that shift happens so quick.
Because we get numb to it because you might have a 401k or a pension plan.
Right.
Okay, and your company matches 3%. So of course, what do? You put 3% in. Well, then you look at your statement at the end of the year, or you get online and you look at your account. Well, it's growing.
Yeah.
Well, it's supposed to grow. Well, then you mentally lose that thrill. Wait, my money's working.
Yeah.
And if I put more into that,
Yep.
you know, one of the best calculators out there is a Roth IRA calculator. And if you haven't gone out and just plugged some numbers in it, it's calculator.net. Look for the Roth IRA calculator. But it's amazing to see that compounding interest as you move through the years. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And that's when I see clients really engage because of their discipline, building that emergency fund, taking care of the foundation, and then they start investing. It's like, wait a second, that looks really good. It's like owning a rental property and you get that first check. It's like, what? Wait, look at that.
Yeah.
That property made me money. You know, yeah. And then you become addicted almost to that process.
That's what my wife's. She's like wants to keep buying. We have one rental property, and then she's like, "Let's buy another house and rent this one out." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Chrissy, we can't just like let's stay here for a minute. I don't want to move yet." So,
I think that's the same thing we see with our clients whenever they really do buy into their health and fitness. Like when they're telling you, like, "Oh, I didn't eat out this week," or "I meal prepped," or "I got in the gym."
Or I didn't eat tater tots.
Or I didn't eat tater tots. Yeah, I have a client who just won't stop eating tater tots.
Oh, he has, though. He has.
But
the broccoli is his new tater tots.
There we
so
go.
There you go.
But whenever they finally get that buy-in mentality and they're actually learning and listening to what you're saying is huge, because now that success is, and those habits are starting to really instill, and that discipline really like honed in and is cemented in their daily life now.
Then it becomes addictive.
Yeah, exactly.
It becomes that thrill of achievement.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Cool. Well, how do you guys see it on your side? How do you see the next year for discipline in fitness?
I think like it's like I said, it goes hand in hand. A lot of it is making these small changes and building these habits with people. So in fit, like it doesn't become, oh, I'm just trying to lose 20 pounds. It becomes like, I'm doing this because I feel better. My mental health is better. I like am healthier than I ever have been. I don't want to stop because I feel great. Just like I was saying, even with my own health stuff, it's like I don't really want to go back to eating out because I love the place I am right now, because it's like, why do I want to go back to that?
Right.
And so like that's the place I want these clients to find themselves in, of like, I've come so far and I feel great and I've built these habits that I can pass down generationally. I'm not only setting an example for myself, but also my family. And then when they're 20, 30, 40 years down the road, they can still take care of themselves and they're not put in retirement homes or struggling to get out off a couch. It's like a lot of the stuff we do here isn't like, oh, we're trying to get people to run like Ironmans and do crazy stuff. It's like, it's longevity and it's health. And so it's like, what can we do to keep you on the right path so you're around to see your grandkids? And I shoot a lot of weddings and see like there's all these tables with like the people that couldn't make it to the weddings, or there's people there's grandparents that are barely making it to the photos. It's like, I want to be the granddad that can
be on the dance floor.
I'm holding all the grandkids, you know?
Yeah.
And so like, I don't want to be the grandparent that's like, couldn't make, like, obviously we can't control everything.
Yeah.
Something could happen.
Yeah.
But I want to do everything that's in my control to be able to show up and be a present grandparent also.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's the foundation part that we build financially, is if something does happen, because you always have to be ready for the unexpected, right? And that's where we put financially, so perhaps you can get to a spot where you can get better, because finances, if you're in a spot where you're having health issues, and suddenly you look at that bill from the hospital that hasn't been paid by insurance. That has a mental anguish, which reduces your health, which puts the stress level up there. Right. So if that foundation piece is there, then you might get to a spot where you can get healthy again.
Yeah. I think for me is like showing people that they can accomplish things that they didn't think was possible. Like either that being losing the weight that they wanted to lose, or lifting a certain amount of weight, whatever their goal is or whatever they're trying to accomplish, like being able to actually see them accomplish that, and then take that with them and look back on the time from where they started to where they ended, or not really ended, but over a year, being able to be like, wow, I really didn't think I was going to accomplish that, and let that flow into the rest of their life with whenever things are hard, or whenever they do hard things, they can get through it and they can be better from it too. So I think that's a huge part of fitness, is you get used to doing harder things. And with saving too, it's like you get used to harder things of, oh, I can't eat out because I've got to save this, or I can't eat out because I'm trying to lose weight and instill good habits. So figuring out how to really push through those boundaries that you didn't think were possible, and being used to being a little bit uncomfortable is really good and important for people to be.
The reason I think this is going to be so important is because I do feel like the financial side of things is such a stressor sometimes for people. It weighs you down if you don't have that stuff in order. And it sometimes is really hard to get your health and fitness in order when you have that much stress on you.
It is.
And so like being able to meld these two together and tackle them at the same time, I think is going to be a kind of a game changer, because it's going to add layers to this that's going to help with stress and anxiety and take like getting control back for your life. Because both of these things, when you're out of control with health or finances, it's like crushing.
It's a spiral.
You feel helpless, and so it's like I really want to be able to offer this like freedom that you get from taking back control of these things.
And just having coaches on both sides to walk you through like struggle points or the wins, everything like that.
Exactly. Cool. I think it's a great way to wrap up. Thanks for taking time out of your time.
It was a pleasure. Very fun.
Appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Oh, sweet.
Sweet.
Bye.
See ya.